Okay, so let's get started. We're in our September staff meeting. Just give me a thumbs up if you see the PowerPoint that says September staff meeting. Okay, I see a bunch of thumbs. Thank you very much. Because you never know. Okay. So super staff member of the month. I kind of messed up the slides, but Miss Brenda Willen, we want to say thank you so much to Miss Brenda for everything she does. She works at Holly Ridge, so if you don't know her, that's where she is every day, and she's a flex teacher there who works extremely hard. Sometimes she does a guest appearance at Sneads Ferry if coverage is needed. She has an enthusiastic disposition and drives in to provide support whenever needed. She always is productive with her time and has built meaningful relationships with the students. She helps to guide students through success in all classrooms at Holly Ridge Quality. She's thoughtful of others, demonstrates kindness, and a terrific team player. Miss Brenda, it just takes action whenever it's needed, especially towards the end of the day to close the building. So we greatly appreciate her. And she's always so positive. So thank you. She will have her certificate and her gift card in her cubby tomorrow. And Miss Maya or Mariah, and she is one of our apprentices from Dixon High School, and she's a dedicated high school apprentice who has grown tremendously while working with her mentor teacher. She uses skills and strategies learned through trainings with students. She demonstrates patience and care when supporting children one-on-one. She's praised by seasoned teachers after working in their classrooms, and she has excellent time and attendance record, which is really important to build that professionalism. You're starting out as an apprentice, and though you're not yet a true professional in the field, you want to demonstrate those practices and make sure that you exhibit that even as a young individual. So as a professional, she's certainly getting there, and we greatly appreciate her. She's doing fantastic things. She's going to go to college with our scholarship, and it's going to be amazing. I see great things for her. All right. September newsletter. Miss Ruby from her maternity house has made this lovely newspaper for us, and it talked about Grams with Grandparents, which was quite successful. We had lots of grandparents commenting on how wonderful it was, and they truly enjoyed their time in the classroom. So thank you for welcoming them into your rooms. Graham crackers are kind of lame, but I couldn't think of another grr food. So if you think of one, please send me a message, and I will make it different for next year. We'll think of something to do with grandparents, but I wanted to do at least a little event. Making sure that there are no toys brought to the classroom. Ms. Ruby put a ton of reminders, and it's really important that the kids know that we should have everything they need in their room. Every day, we should be able to supply them with everything they would be interested in. So if you find your children are interested in items that aren't present in your classroom and that are appropriate, I will get them for your room because I want your kids to feel like they are in their second home all day long. So just message me if you notice that you're kind of low on dinosaurs or your kids really love T-Rex and you don't have any T-Rexes. I will get those things for you. So just have to speak up. And with the stuffies that we have, some of these stuffies are crazy big. They're like the size of the kid. So we want to make sure the stuffy is small enough to fit into the cot bag. If you find that there are parents who are bringing their kid with ginormous stuffies and then they don't even fit in the cubby, you can kindly remind them that we want to make sure that they fit safely in the cot bag and they're just for rest. So something that they can cuddle at rest time. It shouldn't be like a body pillow. And we provide the bottom sheet. They can bring a nice blanket. We also have blankets if they don't supply them. And not every kid needs a stuffy. It's just an option to provide the child with one. If you find that your blankets are getting really thick and big and like they're comforters almost, let's have a talk with your families and make sure that they understand that if we're going to hot wash them every week, they have to fit with 6 other blankets. So we got to make sure they all fit nicely in the washer and the dryer. Otherwise, they're damp and gross when they come out of the dryer. Okay, so moving on. Somebody's chit-chatting. So I'm gonna mute you. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. If you want to ask a question, be my guest, but somebody was having a side convo and I didn't want everyone to be distracted. So welcome to Sneads Ferry and Holly Ridge Quality. I really hope I got everybody, but please correct me if I missed somebody because it's been kind of a month and a half since we've done a staff meeting. We want to say welcome to Miss Megan. She's currently a flex teacher trying out different age groups at Sneads Ferry Quality. Everyone's been very impressed with what she's been doing, so welcome Miss Megan. And Zariah is another high school apprentice that needs fairy quality, and she's been working really hard and getting to know what's expected in the classroom. So we greatly appreciate them both joining us. We will have new teachers starting in the next 2 weeks, so we'll welcome them and we will guide them and support them so they understand the expectations. New hires and reminders for everyone. I say this every time, so I'm going to say it in super speed. If you need it slowed down, then rewatch the YouTube video on like half speed. Okay. So please don't park in the front row. That's for drop off and for pickup. Please make sure if you are going to drop off your children, you act like a parent who's going to work. So you drop off and then you go park somewhere else. When you come pick up, you clock out, you go get your car, you bring it over here, you pick up your kids, get in the car and you go home. So that way that front row is free for parents. I understand some people have some knee issues, some leg issues, hip issues, things like that. Those are people who can park on that one side, you know where the she shed is? And further over. I understand some people park there. I understand some people get here in the dark, but I would really appreciate if those spots are open for families in front of the building, because they will go and they have to go all the way around to the other side of the house of breakfast and park and bring their 3 itty bitties to the front door. And since we're providing them with the service, we want to make sure that they have accessibility to the building in a safe manner. Unfortunately, there was an incident at another center that somebody told me about where a child was hit by a car in the parking lot of that center, because sometimes it gets wild, especially during pickup time. Those parents aren't paying so much attention. They have their kids in the car. They're not really focused on behind their car, and a little itty bitty could be in danger. So please make sure you are just being cautious of where you're parking so we can provide them with the safest environment to bring their children in and out of our school. Clock in at most 5 minutes before your shift starts. So at 5:02, you're welcome to clock in, but when you tend to clock in a quarter to or even 20 minutes to whatever it is, it adds up a lot. I mean, quickly you're going to have an extra hour overtime. Joyce is going to say, wait, they're not written on the schedule to get overtime. And then she's got to do some homework and check why would happen. So please just make sure it's within that 5-minute window. If you are asked for overtime or you do happen to stay late, just make sure we are aware of it so that it's marked on the schedule. So when Joyce goes to do payroll, she is aware of the situation and she can make sure you get that time. Always ask questions. Be honest. If Joyce always says this, and I say this at the end of the staff meeting, but if we don't know there's a situation, a concern, an issue, a worry, then we can't help you fix it. So it doesn't hurt to come talk to us. It doesn't come to hurt, ask questions or favors, and we'd be happy to see what we can do to help support you. But if you don't say anything, we don't know. So you have to make sure you at least tell one of us, whoever you feel the most comfortable with. If you're a flex teacher, please make sure you are jumping into action, you are diving into action, and there should be, in every classroom, a teacher A, a teacher B, and a teacher C chart. So those charts should describe exactly what teacher A is doing at that time of the day, B and C. That way, if you're a flex teacher and that classroom's lucky enough to have a third teacher, you know exactly what's expected of you. They don't have to go and explain because it's there on the chart. I'm teacher A, I'm changing diapers, this person's cleaning up lunch. What are you going to do as teacher C when you pop into that room? So if you don't have it up yet, please make sure you and your co-teacher work together this week. Get it all down. If you want it typed and pretty, just tell me and I'll type it up for you nice and pretty. We'll laminate it or we'll put it in a plastic sleeve and put it right on the wall. And that way, whoever comes into your room, whether they're subbing or they're the extra flex teacher, they're set. They're ready to go. No questions. Lesson plans, please make sure they are posted before Monday morning. So you should have them initialed Thursday or Friday. If you know your supply list by Wednesday, you probably have all your activities ready to go for the next week. You have them in your brains, you just have to put them on the paper. So please make sure your lesson plans are ready to go and you have your standards written on your lesson plans. I appreciate everybody who goes through and does that because it's really important. You have your NC foundational training, you know what standards are expected for that activity. Usually you could fit maybe like 10 different standards that apply to one. I'm only asking 1 or 2 to be written for the activity, nothing crazy, but making sure that they are there. And the activity, when you're writing a lesson plan, and I've noticed this with quite a few of them, don't just write watercolors, because watercolors I don't really know what the intent is with the watercolors. So do you want to practice fine motor skills with watercolors? Do you want to go into the theme of the week using those watercolors? Do you have a goal for your students using watercolors? That's it. Just very simple sentence, but don't just write watercolors, because if someone comes to sub for you, they will have no idea what you want the kids to do with watercolors. Also, if you're getting observed or we tend to pop in or look at that lesson plan, we want to make sure we understand where you're going with it. It could be a standard goal, like I said, fine motor skills. It could be drawing shapes. So you want to use watercolors to draw shapes of their choice. You want to use watercolors to illustrate maybe a theme that you're talking about. You're talking about sea creatures. But that little extra snippet gives everyone the idea and understanding of what the goal was, especially parents who are interested in learning and seeing what you're doing in the classroom. That's perfect. That will give them enough to understand that was their goal today. Let's talk about it when we get home. Because usually they say, "What'd you do in school today?" And they say, "Nothing." But then they can look at the lesson plan, and it is beneficial to share it with the parents on ProCare, just saying, because if a parent were to try to be involved in their child's growth and development, they're going to see what you have for the week, and they might mimic those things at home or what you're emphasizing in the classroom at home. So it's beneficial to everybody involved. Make sure your purses and phones are locked up in that closet. If you need to get a phone call through, like you have something going, an appointment that's being set, they can call the office. We will run you that phone. If you need a specific time to make a phone call, we'll get you that coverage you need. But the phones that are out, unfortunately, we have more times than not seen people doing things that they shouldn't with their phones when with children. During active rest, the phone is yours. You do your homework, your research, your planning, whatever you want to do, but communicating with parents. But during the day, if you're with children and you're engaging and supposed to be supervising them, there is no need for that phone in your hand unless you're taking pictures of activities and sending it to mom and dad. So just keep in mind what the expectations are and how serious supervision is. Smartwatches are tricky because it's so easy. And it's like a part of your body almost. So just make sure that you're aware of the fact that we shouldn't be text messaging and calling with our smartwatches. Supply list should be turned in by the Wednesday every week before. So if you need special things ordered, please make sure it's 2 weeks prior. I will do my best to get it there in time. But if you give me it the Wednesday before you're supposed to start that lesson plan on that next Monday, it's definitely not going to get there in time. Amazon's been slower and slower lately. So we want to make sure we get your stuff for the activities and you don't have to switch things around. Reimbursements. Don't go on a shopping spree. I will reimburse you if you ask and we don't have it. Most of the time, we have all this junk somewhere. So you just have to ask me. Brittany will go and get it from the supply closet or wherever it may be. And there you go. We didn't have to spend extra monies and it clears up some space in the storage. So there you go. Reminders. Coming back from lunch on time. Everyone's been very good about this. Restraining children component, I always leave it in there because unfortunately there is a stigma for a reason in childcare and early childhood education. There are individuals out there who don't know better, unfortunately, and they shouldn't be working with children. We are so proud to have individuals who are educators who understand how to work with children and get on their level and have conversations with them. If you feel like you're about to blow, call for admin and take a break. You have that ability. You don't have to get up here before things get crazy. You can make sure that you are going to center yourself, you're going to regulate yourself, and then you go back into the room and you're able to work with that child with a very even toned mind. So you want to make sure that you're even keeled going back in to work with that child. Practice your star breathing. There are kids who know how to push our buttons. We know who that kid is, but we want to make sure that we center ourselves and we are definitely emotionally regulated before we address them. Because if you're heightened sense of emotion, they're going even higher, and it's just this competition of who's going to get more frustrated first. And if it's the adult, it typically doesn't end well. So we're always there. Just call for admin. We will come support you. You take a walk, take a break if you need to leave for the day because it's that bad, but please tell us and we will be there to support you. Dress code, kind of out of short season in a little bit, but making sure they're the 5 inches long. Leggings are acceptable. Just make sure all your goods are covered. If you can bend, lean, and play comfortably, it's probably good to go. Tank tops, make sure they have a bit of a width of a strap there instead of spaghetti straps or something's covering that strap. Please don't just roll out of bed and come to work. At least brush your teeth and brush your hair, and then you can come to work. But those parents are expecting a professional to be educating and caring for their child. If I wanted babysitters, I'd hire babysitters and they wouldn't cost me as much. So please make sure you are presenting yourself as the professional. You are well educated. You're going to school currently. You've already graduated. You're seasoned veterans. These are the people who we want to represent us. So that's why I asked that at least you brush your hair and you brush your teeth. That's about it. And the scents, I know some of us have wonderful perfumes we like to wear out, but when we work with children, we can be scentless. Please don't put on that perfume before you go into school. There are kids with these crazy allergies, and anaphylactic shock comes out of nowhere. And then that kid who we didn't know had any allergies smells your perfume and they are in trouble. So to avoid all of that, because we never know what's going to trigger a kid, especially with scents, please don't spray perfume on yourself like that. If you use deodorant, that's a good idea. But making sure you spritz yourself before you leave the house, there's no need. There's no need. You go into the classroom and you're probably going to smell like diapers at the end of the day anyway. So you're fine. You just go home and take a shower. All right. End of day. Please make sure if you are a lead teacher or a co-teacher of the classroom, those butts are changed before you leave. So if you're the last teacher of the room who's assigned to that room to leave, you want to make sure all diaper changes, all potties are done so that you can tell the flex teacher who comes in for you, everyone went potty by 4:30. So-and-so likes to poop at 4:45, but at least they only have those to check 2 hours from then. By the 2 hour mark, they should have checked everybody by then. But you don't want to leave a flex teacher with half the class not have been changed, not have gone pottied, and all these different things that will build up to where the parent receives a child who may have been in poop from that moment you had done everybody else, left that kid for the flex teacher. We want to make sure our babies are taken care of before the flex teacher comes in and takes over, because those next couple hours are their domain. And making sure that you hand off these wonderful children all clean, hygienied, it'll end better, I promise. Please make sure you're wiping noses and faces. We're getting into allergies with those fall leaves falling. So if you just do a diaper change, wipe the nose, wipe the face, make sure there's no crusties from breakfast still on them when they pick up. That will make sure the parent understands that we are caring for their child and we're ensuring that they're going home better than they came to us. Some children come with full diapers and snot-filled faces, but we are going to make sure that those itty bitties are well cared for and cleaned. Clean the playgrounds. So this goes for Sneads Ferry, Sneads Ferry 2, and Holly Ridge Quality. The playgrounds must be cleaned when your group is done with the playground. Please don't assume the next group is going to take that trash in. I understand it rained a lot. I understand that things were soaked in those baskets because someone didn't take the trash out the day before. So when the storm came, all that water made everything gross, and there wasn't even a bag in there. So now you got loose, yucky, snot, boogie things in there and cups in there, and you got to pick it out with gloved hands. Laura does it barehanded, but I suggest you use gloves. And when you're cleaning it out, you just can think about that group who left it in there. Or we can all make a positive change. And we make sure that we clear out the garbage. When our group goes in, we take that trash and we put it in the classroom trash bin. We make sure that the toys are cleaned up. It should be the responsibility of the children you're with, especially if they're 2 and older. We're teaching them how to clean. We're teaching them how to be responsible for their spaces, to care for their spaces. This is their home for 10 hours a day. The playground is no different. We're going to teach them how to put things away. This is where all the bikes go. Here, look, all the bikes are there. All of our Legos go in this bin. Room 6's bin with those Legos is having a hard time, but that's where they would be going. making sure everything's put away. If you're coming in and you're coming out and you're the first group in the morning and it rained the night before, unfortunately, you're the group who's going to have to dump all the water out of those areas where water could collect. And I appreciate that. Thank you, because we don't want mosquitoes and we don't want weird creatures growing in there. And we find a lot of frogs after storms, so the kids will have fun with those frogs. But the toy bins should be closed when you're a closing person, or even after each playtime. Close the toy bin, because if it's open, guess what goes inside? And it fills up, and it's really, really tough to get the water out of that bin. So just make sure they're closed. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Supervising, engaging students. Supervision does not just mean standing there and watching them. You are with kids. You are talking to kids. You are teaching children, and you're playing with them, because we are learning through play. If you're at blocks, I built a boat today in a classroom, and we built a boat, and we talked about how if we had holes and cracks that the water could come in, and we needed to make sure it was big enough for the three of us to fit in the boat, and we needed to know how many layers of bricks needed to be, those foam bricks, placed in order for us to have an even boat so that the walls were all the same size and same height. That alone is a learning experience, and all I did was play with kids and make a boat with blocks. It is amazing what you can teach children just by playing with them. How to cooperate, how to problem solve, how to regulate their emotions. And that's what they need to be successful in kindergarten. So it starts as early as the itty bittiest ones in that infant room, and they grow with us till they go off to kindergarten. And then they're with us at school agers. And the ones who have been with us as school agers, for the most part, are able to teach those other students who join us for summer camp what's expected. And that speaks volumes. When we send children off to kindergarten from our preschools, those teachers say, wow, I know you came from Sneads Ferry Quality or Holly Ridge Quality, because they're able to regulate their emotions, problem solve, sit and listen for at least like 10 minutes or so at a time. But they have that start to be a successful student and a productive citizen. So we want to make sure we keep producing those productive citizens. All right. Moving on. All these documents that we fill out, the incident reports, the non-injury reports, and the biting reports, those are all legal documents. So only use blue or black ink. If you haven't completed one yet, please make sure you ask a seasoned teacher to help guide you complete one, so you are well aware of what's expected on that form and what we do with it. So if you haven't done one yet, please ask someone when you're next time. Unfortunately, if someone gets a boo-boo, you're going to say, hey, can I watch you fill that out? Or can I fill it out and you watch me make sure I do it correctly? These are all the administrator roles. We've gone over these, but I put them in there again for our new hires. Cox Campus, I have shared before, some of our teachers have used this program and they found it very beneficial. So I appreciate those individuals who have done that and really valued the trainings. And they got contact hours for it, and it's free. It's free. So class assessments, if you noticed, and I'm sure you have, Miss Amelia has been going through and doing some of her class assessments already. She's kind of starting with her youngest and going up to the oldest of our buildings. When she does the class assessment, it's 15 or 20 minutes in the room at a time, observing. She takes her notes, she does her little check chart, and then she leaves and she writes all her anecdotal notes and observational notes in a more formal format, and then she goes back in. So she does this about 4 or 5 times depending on the class. Some classrooms she didn't really get an ideal time, so she's going to come back and watch you again in that ideal time so she can really have a true idea of what occurs in the classroom and not just judge you on like, oh, was diaper changing and getting ready for lunchtime. That's not a very good time. She wants to see you engaging and interacting with children during free choice time, during a time when you're able to move around freely and really show what you have. Though we are talking to children when we're diaper changing and we're engaging with them when they're getting ready for lunch, it's not as impactful as if you were doing that whole play or outdoor or indoor playtime. Then she'll meet with you after that pre-assessment. She'll meet with the teacher and the co-teacher, and she'll go over what she observed. She'll identify some goals that you need to work on, and then you'll proceed from there. And those will be your goals for the year. So as a classroom, you're going to work on some items that she noticed need some addressing. It's not to say that they weren't good. We just want to be super great, awesome, stupendous. So that's why we're going to be building on these building blocks, and that will be your professional goals for the year. When you meet with Ruby or myself for your PD plans, you can use these goals as your own personal goals because you're working on them already, so you might as well put them on that plan and not have to redo. So this is for infants. I put it on here so you can refer back to it if you'd like to. I know I gave these out during our PD day, but now you have them here and you can just click on it and view what Miss Amelia is going to be observing. This is for toddlers, and then this is for the preschool crew. Now, toddlers, keep in mind, they go up to 36 months. So your just newly 3-year-olds will be in this category. But if she's observing a 3-year-old class, she's going to be using this page. So this is a video I wanted to show you, and I feel it's very useful to understand our children with challenging behaviors because no matter what room you're in, you have a darling with challenging behaviors. However, on the spectrum you want to put them on that challenging behaviors meter, they're there. And we want to make sure that we are able to support them because dismissal from the program is like the very last step. We get all these resources and support services and TAs, and we do it for a while before we say we can't support your child. They need a different setting. Unless very severe circumstances. So I want to show you this video and then I'm going to ask a couple questions afterwards just to reflect. And if you have questions during, you can post them right in the chat and we'll get to them right afterwards. No. Oh no. Let's see if I can pull it up here.
No, Riley.
Hi, everybody. All right, here we go. They made it as an image, not a video. Ooh. Okay. I wanted to show you that one, but I'm going to show you this one instead. For conscious discipline, it's also a good one, but we talk about conscious discipline. Oh, it's just not showing videos. Let's try again. Thank you for holding. Appreciate it. I just tried it at home. No content. There we go. All right. For some reason, I didn't enable content before. Can you give me a thumbs up? You can still see this slideshow. Everybody see it? Okay. I don't think it's loud enough. Sorry. Okay, here we go.
Whenever young children have behavioral concerns, it's upsetting for everyone. Sometimes we can get wrapped up in wanting to just stop that behavior rather than thinking about the root cause of the behavior. And really, if we stop there, it's a missed opportunity. I think that's a great reason to sort of want to slow down a little bit and think back to why might this be happening?
All behavior is communication. And no matter whether a child is showing you positive behavior, what you perceive as positive behavior, or you perceive as challenging behavior, a child's telling you something. Can we guess what that child is trying to tell you?
Hi, Robbie. It's excited to see you. Oops. Is that in your way? Could I move it? Could you see Robbie?
We just have to figure out
what they're communicating and what function or what need is unmet for the child. Once we understand the child more in their circumstance, we start to see it a little differently. And then we can really work on what the student or child needs.
I would consider whether the child's coming off a busy weekend, whether the child's coming off, if the behavior has all of a sudden changed, has the child been sick? Are there changes going on in the family? I would ask if anything different or special happened. One of the kids recently had a pretty serious fall. And so now she's frightened of going down the stairs. If I didn't have that information, I wouldn't be able to figure that out.
When a child is really starting to push my buttons, I really try to take deep breaths and I try to get to the bottom of the problem right away and try to get to what's really bothering the child and help them work through it rather than just implementing a consequence right away.
And one of the things as a teacher that I do is observing the child. Why is she doing this? Taking notes on what happened before, what happened after, and how can you get that child to communicate her needs. It's very important to understand where she's coming from too.
One thing I ask teachers to keep in mind all the time is to be reflective in their relationships that they have with parents and with children. That's the first thing that we need to think of as teachers when we enter a classroom. We're also in a relationship with that child, so they're learning how to go about doing the right thing, or what's a really good pro-social skill to have by just being in a relationship with you.
I think whenever we're looking at the behavior of very young children, certainly we want to always look at medical types of things and rule that out. Is there something medical or is there something physical that might be impacting that child? Is the child hearing adequately? Sometimes children have sensory differences that can affect how they behave. And they don't always have deep-seated emotional issues associated with those.
If students are overstimulated, they might retreat, and their behaviors might be interpreted by the teachers as there's something wrong with them. And in turn, if a student is understimulated, they might jump around, make a lot of noise because they're trying to meet that need of being stimulated.
And there's a lot of good information about children with patterns of language delays, sometimes having behavioral issues because they're perpetually not able to express what they want or what they need using words.
Sometimes those stages of development may involve behaviors that seem inappropriate or out of line, but may actually be a natural phase that children go through.
Very young infants have a job of establishing security and safety. So they are going to cry. That's their only tool that they have to let you know that they need you. A more mobile infant is going to do a lot of exploring and starting to get into trouble. But we need to remember that that's what they're supposed to do at that age.
Toddlers often begin to assert themselves by saying no over and over again, and that's one of the ways in which they assert themselves.
I would never get through a book if I waited for everybody to sit down and not sit. Crisscross applesauce, hands in your lap. You can't get 18 adults to do everything the same way at one time, let alone 18 3 and 4 year olds. If you look at the standards, it's not an expectation for all 18 kids to sit there like this and just look at a story.
Once upon a time, there was a little man, little woman. How did it feel?
Do you remember? They're not all going to sit. And this is why we do 2 small groups also for the story. It's okay if they're touching the book during all that time and they can grab the book from me. It's all right. It's just part of being 3 and 4.
I think having adults be able to look at the early learning standards, consider what is typical in the development of these various skills can really provide a useful tool for both understanding child development and where things may be out of step.
We always need to be thinking about what might be a uniqueness that a particular child might be bringing. Some children are very auditory learners. Some children are very kinesthetic learners.
Every child is unique, and as a teacher, we all need to adjust, step back, and think about the child through observation, through play, whether they're shy or they're more opened up.
Trying to be an adopted baby. We're gonna save the baby. Can be the nurse. Get a nurse. Hi. Wanna be the nurse?
Most people think that their experience is what everyone's feeling. So if you like physical contact, you give a lot of physical contact, and they might be trying to get space. They may be getting too much stimulation. And you have to understand that your way of being in the world is relative.
How the family interacts with their child is very important. I think that's when you find out about family culture. One child might be able to run around freely and explore their environment, while the other one was taught to sit still and only move when an adult gives them permission to move. So if you have both within your classroom and you have one child explore and the other child who's timid or appears to be timid, it is not that one is not learning and one that is misbehaving, is that they've been taught differently within their households.
Cultural influences are a very big part of, I would say, the child's development. In our classroom, we really encourage self-help skills. And there's one little guy I'm thinking of in particular. Dad does everything for him at home, and it's a cultural thing. You know, mom has shared with me. But the thing about that is, when you have an environment that's conducive to parents sharing, then you have an understanding of what those cultural influences are and how to support them. Also, how to get the parents to see what you're trying to do. We have to back up a little bit and get to know the parents.
Every home brings its own culture. What we can do is be upfront about that and say, tell me a little bit more about your home when it comes to sleeping and eating. We need to learn about what the family routines are so that we can understand them, and then partner with families to say, well, let's work together on how we might be able to help your child master a new skill here. Children's external environment has a large impact on how they're able to manage themselves. Highly distractible children are going to have a really hard time maintaining focus and attention and staying on task if they're constantly bombarded with sound and activity. I think sometimes it's a really good practice for teachers to maybe just sit on the floor and just look around and listen. One sort of general rule of thumb is that if you have many children exhibiting the same behavior in a space, you might say to yourself, I wonder whether we need to look at this environment. You know, if someone's biting in the black corner, perhaps it's too tight of an area and we've got too many children congregated there. We also can think about whether do we have too much space? So do we have children running all over and banging into one another?
To me, having an environment that is calm and safe and free of run spaces, so no one's doing laps in the room, it really affects their behavior. I strive to have as many natural fibers and materials in my classroom as possible to lighten the mood and to bring it down to a calming level, soft music playing during meal times. And so making sure that we are aware of what their environment at home is like, and then adjusting our classroom environment.
If the child has had a lot of change in their environment at home, maybe there's been a disruption in where they're living, maybe there's been a family separation, well, they're then having to function in environments with different expectations. And that's a lot for a little one to learn the rules in all of those places. And while we're not going to change those things, we need to kind of know about that.
They just go with the flow and know that they need some positive reinforcement. It's going to be okay. And they're not verbalizing it and trying to talk about it, but you know, that's affecting the behavior.
Children can only do what they know, right? They just haven't learned new things yet. So it's our role as teachers and parents and caregivers to teach those new things, new skills for them, and give them plenty of time to practice them. And we have to be patient and remember that they are learning.
What is that?
Can you feel how hard this is? What would happen if this hit a friend? What would happen if you threw it and bumped a friend? No. That could make a big. We're gonna roll.
We do a lot of talking when there is inappropriate behavior. You know, I address that and I'll say, no, that's not nice, hitting her. So you took this away and now she's sad.
Wait a minute, ask, you have to use your words, ask Lexi. See, she shared with you.
Behavior is one of those things that adults think children should just kind of learn or pick up on their own. I ask teachers to think of it as, would you expect them to learn how to read on their own? If I want them to act this way, do they have the skills to do it? And if they don't, how can I teach them? How can I support them to have it? How can I remind them of what to do?
Dustin, he doesn't know what you want to say unless you use your words. What would you like to tell him? What would you like to tell him with your words? Please don't do that.
All children from their earliest days learn how to regulate, learn how to feel safe, learn how to function based upon the very earliest attachment relationships that they've had. But we also know that not all of our children have had that good fortune. We have children who've experienced trauma. We've had children that have had disruptions in their home life. We've had children that are experiencing toxic stress all around them in their family lives. And we have to remember that those children are going to come with us with really strong needs. And usually those are the behaviors that are the hardest to manage and they need us the most. But then what we have to do is remember that that child is asking for our help. And really what they're saying is that I feel unsafe and I feel insecure.
It might not be something that we have control over, but we do have control over helping them build more skill in emotional literacy, in pro-social behaviors, and things like that. There are times where it's really important when we're working with kids who really have a challenging behavior. So we're talking persistent over time, that's interfering with their social relationships or their learning. And for those kids, they need a team.
These are times that we often need to think about what other referrals might be appropriate to support that child, because it may be bigger than what we can remediate within a center environment or in a caregiving environment. And we can work in tandem then so that we are all working on the same goals and using the same strategies.
It's really important that we see the whole context and of the situation and the whole child, what the situation is for a child, what their temperament is, what their environment is, what their home life is, what are this child's strengths, and then how can we build on what the child already has.
If we understand the root cause, and it takes some work to figure it out, but if we can understand that, it gives us an opportunity to teach. And that's really what we want to do, is used as a learning point for children to grow from. Because much of it is practice and learning, we have to teach them.
Okay, so I know that was a bit of a longer one than I normally show. I have some. Oh, Joyce asked, can you remind everyone the high school staff are not supposed to fill out incident reports? That's true. If they're not the lead teacher, the co-teacher, or the flex teacher who has taken one of their spots, please don't have a high school apprentice write an incident report. If apparently they're the only one who witnessed it, they can state it, and then the teacher writes it and says that the high school apprentice was the witness. And that will help so that when the parent has a question, it's not directed to the high school apprentice, it's directed to a teacher of the room or the flex teacher who took over that position for the afternoon. Miss Maddie said, I would like to add that we need to make sure that our current students make sure to influence our new students so they know what to expect like our current students. And that's a great point. Miss Maddie makes that our other students become teachers for the new ones. And they're able to guide each other and become, little teachers in the classroom. I used to have little lanyards that would have 2 different jobs of the classroom, and they would be teachers. They would be the professionals, the experts of something very specific, but they would teach others how to do that specific task or be in charge of supporting others for the day because they're the expert. And it makes them feel very important and valued in the classroom. So I definitely agree with you, Miss Maddie. This video touched on so many different things, but all these different branches that support the emotional growth of a child in our classroom and where they're coming from. For us to have that understanding of where they're coming from, then we're able to bring them up, show them what's expected, but also support them in that process so that they know we're there for them, but this is where we need to be with our emotional regulation, with our peer interactions, and helping them grow as little people, productive citizens, that's part of it. So talking to the families, really getting to know the parents, and sometimes they don't tell us what's truly happening at home. But if you have a 3-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old in your classroom, they tell you what's happening at home because they love to share what happens at home. And you'll get little glimpses and little bits of information of what's really happening there. And then you can kind of think about, all right, so this is what's the situation. How can I support this child to understand what they see at home may not be appropriate reaction to a peer. So we have to teach them what's an appropriate reaction to a peer who may take their toy or upset them in some way. Okay. Moving on. So this one is all about conscious discipline, but in a different light where she guides you in explaining how it affects the child and teacher's thoughts and the child's feelings and actions. So if you want to watch this, I encourage you to. It's a half hour, so obviously I couldn't show it to you, but I think it's very valuable, especially if you haven't been with us for more than a year. You're not aware of all the conscious discipline trainings that we've been plugging into each staff meeting, and I find them very valuable. And the more tools for your tool belt when you're working with children, then you don't run out of options as easily. So you're just putting more tools in your tool belt. So when you encounter that child who is extremely unique, you're not at a loss. You have different tools that you've developed and you've grown with, and we gave you, hopefully, and you're able to address the needs of this child, or at least know where to look. Because that's really important. You don't want to feel like you're lost and you have no support. So you can always come to us, but we provide these mini trainings so that you don't have to feel like you have no answers and know where to start. Okay, so in relation to what they were just talking about, making sure that you as the teacher, you're doing real-time teaching, you're getting dirty, you're getting your hands dirty, you're in it. Sitting in a chair across the classroom watching children is not productive and it's not teaching. You're going to get your hands dirty and go into a center. Maybe you go to housekeeping because they're playing mommy, daddy, and baby and they have a conflict. You want to come join. Now, you're not going to solve the conflict for them, depending on age, because our toddlers need more of a redirection. But our 3s and up, even our 2s, they need support on learning how to self-regulate and solve the problem together so that in the end, they can do it independently when they're older. So when they're in the 2s, you're really going to guide them. You're hand-holding, you're doing a lot of modeling, and they're repeating, and they're with you. You're with both the kids who are in a confrontation, and you're kind of doing the back and forth and showing them what's appropriate to solve the problem. And as they get to be 3 and 4 and 5, we expect more independence. We expect them to take the initiative. But that comes with repetition. It comes with that explicit instruction. What do you expect to see? We don't expect you to see you whack your friend. What we expect you to see is using your words, and here are some phrases you can use when you're addressing your friend. You're doing it with the students. So if you want to be the bad guy one day and you are in small group, which I encourage you to do this with, pick the children who have the toughest time with this stuff. Sit with them, play a game with all of them, just build with Magnetiles. But you are going to be the instigator. And you take some toys. I want these. Immediately, they're not going to know what to do because that's not like Miss Shannon at all, but that creates the problem. Now you're going to help guide them to develop the solution together. They're going to use their words to address you. They're going to find a resolution to the problem together. And that's the learning experience. That is a lesson. You don't have to be elaborate with themes and creating all these crazy activities. That is a learning experience. You've just addressed so many modalities. You've addressed so much for your children, especially if they need that support. If you have perfect angels in your room and they all can solve problems and self-regulate, then yeah, you could move on and get other things. But this is something that every kid's going to need to learn. And when they're older, we hope that we've developed those skills enough where they're more independent. But we can only hope sometimes because we need that support from home too. So sending a family home with homework, especially when they have a child with challenging behaviors, it is appropriate. It is okay. I support you 100% to go to the parent and say, at home, this is what we were doing here. It would be great if you did it at home too. That way you are working as a team because they always say it takes a village, but it literally does take a village when a child comes with us with very unique needs and we want to support them. So if those parents are on our side, the family's on our side, doing it at home, mirroring what we do in the classroom, you're going to see significant change so much faster because the kid's getting a double duty here and at home. You explain the activity, maybe in a pro-care message, hey, we've been working in small group. I am the antagonist. I'm getting it done and I'm taking their toys away from them. And I'm having them help me understand how to solve the problem because I don't know any better. So they're teaching me. And when the child gets to the point where they can teach a peer, their mastery, they've got it. So that's where we want them in the end. And it's going to take a lot of practice, a lot of picture cues, a lot of modeling, and you're going to feel like you've been repeating yourself forever. But that's what's necessary. Okay, moving on. So I just stumbled upon this. I've seen it before. I even had a membership, but I totally forgot about it because there's so many different resources out there. I share with you guys what I get, and then sometimes I forget that I even had it in the first place. So this is the Head Start resource that is totally free. I mean, you could be anybody and create a membership. So I did one for you. You are welcome to use mine. And you click on the link and it takes you to awesome resources for visual cues, visual scheduling, and it goes from infants all the way up to school age. So if you have children and you want to show them what's expected, like gentle hands or a picture of breathing techniques, and you laminate them into cards on cardstock and you put it on a ring, which we do have the ring. So you put it on a ring and you have your card and you flip through the cards and you show them what you expect. That resource is free and it's on this website. They also have many lesson plans on how to implement these things. So you could be sitting with small group. There's that. It's just a one-sheeter, but it tells you exactly what to do with your kids if you need that support. And they give you the resource. I think it's fantastic. I really hope you look at it. Maybe tomorrow during rest time, you kind of explore the website and see what they offer. But there's videos in there. There's resources. It's fantastic. It's, not North Carolina sponsored, but I would use it because it applies to all types of social emotional growth. Doesn't matter where the kid lives. They're all growing in the same way. Please make sure you are always using an even tone when you're addressing children. I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it one more time. If you're talking to a kid and you want them to focus, just like I'm stating, my shirt is blue, our feet are on the floor, we're sitting in our chair. That is my even toned voice, but I mean business. When a kid is addressing another kid, you can call it their big voice. They have to use their big voice because they need to sound assertive that they mean what they're saying and they say what they mean. So the kid is going to learn to say, that was my toy. I was playing with that. Please give it back. And you're going to practice that with the child. They are using their big voice to address the problem. And that takes a lot of practice. But calling it the big voice is very helpful. Okay, end of the day checklist. Just please make sure you're also handling those playgrounds, checking around with the students, make that sure they are also doing most of the work, cleaning up their play space. They're really treating it with respect and caring about their learning environments. And then very quickly, we have our trunk or treat next month on October 26th. It's from 1 to 4. The vendor setup and the trunk setup is at 11 a.m. It's at our Smedes Ferry location, and it's our 4th one. I am going to admit, I kind of dropped the ball this year, and I don't have 40 vendors like I do every year. If you would like to do a trunk, if you would like to have a table and just be at a table, kids can color, make masks at your table. Maybe you're doing the face painting table, which I do need 2 face painters. I've had 1 volunteer, so I need 1 more face painter. You can make that your table. And I will supply you with the candy from the donations we get. So you don't have to buy candy if you're a staff member volunteering, because I know the candy, it adds up. It's very expensive. But just to use your trunk, have a theme. We've had some awesome themes in the past. If you want to check out the Facebook page pictures, people have gone all out, and I greatly support our teachers who spend their time to support the community. This is a free event. I pay for pony rides. Joyce and I pay for the trolley, the haunted trolley. Miss Rachel typically gets the fire truck and the police cruiser to come by. We have food trucks. Joyce and I get bounce houses for the kids. There's little picture opportunities, and then vendors throughout the entire parking lot. So I'm asking if you would like to do a trunk, have an idea. I'll set up the sign up sheet on top of the mailboxes on Monday. So you got like a few days to think about it, but I really hope you join us. Your family can be with you at your trunk. You and your co-teacher can do a trunk. We've had many co-teachers work together to do a theme, and it's just so fun to see our teachers out in the community and participating. So I appreciate it for those of you who are going to volunteer, and I understand if you can't. And then these are always, this is a slide that we always put in, but these are the trainings, and these are live links. So if you're a new staff member and you're like, I haven't taken my NC Feld yet, you just click on that NC Feld link and you got it. For fire safety, that one has to be done every year. So if you haven't taken it in a year, usually Miss Ruby's on top of it, but she's with her sweet little baby girl right now. So if you want to check with myself or Brittany can look it up for you, and we'll make sure that everyone's on track. But Ruby does have it on an Excel sheet, so it makes it much easier for me. I used to do it old school, and I would just like flip through your file. And then CPR, I have those who I trained, those who I review with, and I don't think anyone else is next. Oh, and then last but not least, obviously, if we don't know about a problem, we cannot help you resolve it. Joyce says it all the time. So making sure that you just tell someone, an admin who has the power. We have the power to help you and support you. If you're spreading your concerns and your worries and the gossip to other people, it's not productive. I'm going to tell you that right now. It just causes nonsense. People get upset. And in the end, I find out from somebody who wants us to know about this gossip and nonsense, and don't look good. Doesn't look good. People spreading gossip. So if you have a concern, come to us. We will help support you the best we can. We will try to solve that problem. If we can't solve it, we're going to tell you we can't solve it and why. And then hopefully you live happy ever after working for us. So if you have questions or anybody has concerns, feel free to message me. I'm going to post the PowerPoint and the video in just a little bit. And I hope you have a wonderful well, first, Joyce, do you have anything to say? Anybody on there who wants to say something?
Nope, all good. That was it.
All right. Have a great evening. Thank you, everyone who joined us live. Hey, wait. Let me do this. Can everyone see? Anna? She's beautiful. She's so beautiful. I love her bow. Well, I'm just gonna leave Eliana there with Ruby, and everybody can noogle at the baby. So cute.
Good to see you, Ruby.
Cute baby. I love it. Can't wait to cuddle that baby. Goodness. Oh, and her cheeks are
Don't forget to have her sign in.
yeah, she could win a raffle prize. That was good to see you, Ruby. Bye.